Hey there, friends and enemies, JoPa here again, and recently Bungie asked for changes the community would like to see on the road to Lightfall, also for next year, because it's going to be the last major year in Destiny 2 before the final shape, where I believe the game is going to get a complete overhaul. So, keeping that in mind, and keeping in mind the changes they've already announced, I want to give my thoughts here. And also remember that the community is pretty diverse and there's going to be a wide range of feedback. You've got casual and hardcore players, PvE and PvP players, everything in between. I'm kind of a blend of a lot of things. I do play PvP a lot. I play PvE, all that kind of good stuff. So my feedback is coming from a player who logs in consistently every week and plays the game across all different game modes. So bearing that in mind, we know in-game LFG is coming. We know loadouts are coming, mod changes. We're getting changes to Grandmaster Nightfalls already, and that's going to continue going forward. So there's a lot of things that I'm really excited about. But where the game really needs to change are a couple places that, in my personal opinion, could use some love. One is going to be the blues that we get in the game are no longer necessary, especially with some of the changes to the power level. So I would love to see them either pushed out of the game entirely, or if you get too many of them, they're pushed to a place in maybe in your vault or something where you can dismantle them all at once, and they're not clogging your postmaster, they're not clogging your inventory, because really, outside of the first maybe week of the new expansion every single year, they're not necessary. There's no reason to have them, and they're just such a waste. I don't know if that's fixable or something that can be done within the framework of Destiny, but they are a major pain point for a lot of people, and I think it's just a very much an inconvenience. Now, moving on, I would love to see the tormentors that are dropping, instead of being like public events, be random world boss type things in the vein of normal MMOs that you see. I would love to see them kind of wandering the streets, and you can kind of track them down on your map and go hunt them as a crew. I feel like that would be a lot of fun if you get like 6 Guardians taking them on at one time, 9 Guardians potentially. I think that would be a lot of fun, and I'm hopeful that's what they are. The Tormentors look like they could be a very cool concept, and I don't want them to be champions. I know a lot of people have problems with the champion system. I don't mind it so much personally. That's not a change that I would make to the champion system, besides adding more exotics that have champion intrinsic perks, or exotic armor that has champion intrinsic perks. Outside of that, I would not really mess with the champion system all that much personally, but I wouldn't be mad if they did change that either. I just hope Tormentors don't have that kind of restriction going forward, because I'd love to see them just be super tanky, elite level enemies that teams have to come together to take down all at once, and that's just a personal preference of mine. Seasonal activities, I think, need an update, whether that's changing the way they work or changing how you farm them. So for me personally, I would love to see something like a horde mode, where you, every so many levels, you have a chance to get a red rimmed weapon. Every so many levels, you get a chance at various rewards that are better than if you just say you go 5 levels, you get a certain level of reward. Say you go 10 levels, next up. And really that would challenge players to see how far they could go. I feel like that's a self-contained activity that could be very good and allow for people to, again, test their builds as it gets stronger and stronger over time. That's just something that I would love to see eventually in Destiny. I think it would work very well, and change up the way the gameplay loops for the seasonal activities, because then you don't have to leave the activity to get better rewards. You can just farm infinitely, essentially, depending on how long your build can help you last. So that's a personal preference. Maybe every 5 levels it goes up 5 power level, and like your level is capped. We've seen it this season, which is another great change that they've recently made, where the power level for the seasonal activity is 5 to 10 above what your current power level is, so you can't over power level it. So if you do something like that and the power level goes up incrementally every couple of rounds, I feel like that'd be perfect for Destiny. The other thing with the seasonal activity, I think I would like to see a season where everything kind of drops at once, as a test to see how the community reacts. I personally believe that the seasonal model is necessary because Destiny players will chew through all the content and then complain there's nothing else for the rest of the season. But personally, I would love to see a season where they drop everything all at once and just see how the community reacts and how everyone responds to that all being available when you don't have to have a reason to log in every single week. That's just a personal preference of mine, but I think something like that would be a very interesting process. Other than that, strikes. I feel like strikes are kind of useless now if you don't need them for pinnacle grinding. Add weird, wild stuff. Like we've seen it with the snowballs, and you can level up your crafted weapons with snowballs in the Dawning. Make crazy modifiers where you can level up your crafted weapons in those things and just make them overpowered, super strong, really easy to do, but a lot of fun and a lot of variety. Different modifiers like 500 times increased solar damage, or just weird, crazy stuff that really leads to a lot of fun, because I think there's a limited shelf life for strikes at this point. You can add 5 new strikes next year, and it's not going to do a whole lot after you beat them the first couple times. More strikes is not the answer. Just like in Crucible, more maps is not the answer, in my opinion. I think more maps is going to add a little bit of variety. You need some more close-range maps. Bring back some of the close-range maps we've seen in the past. But really, I think the playlists need more variety. I know skill-based matchmaking is a pain point for a lot of people. I think that that's not going away anytime soon. I would rather see competitive be rank-based first and foremost, but I would love to see competitive and trials merged. Personally, I mentioned this previously. I think the game is not really at a place now that it suits both. So you have all of the rewards be in one place. So you have the weapons, the armor, and stuff that you might see from trials, but in a competitive setting where you can level up and earn those at your own pace kind of thing. Something like that, I feel like is going to be necessary, because I don't think the game can sustain both of those modes long term, and every mode is going to feel sweatier as you dilute the player base and you have less casuals in various modes. You kind of spread everybody out too far, and that's one of the reasons when Iron Banner comes around, there's no trials, because they want everybody in one place. We already know they're getting some Iron Banner changes as well. Once Iron Banner becomes 3 times a season next week, with Lightfall dropping, once it becomes 3 times a season, I would love to see them either have it on a rotation where different game modes are rotated in and out, or every time you log in, it could be all the 3 game modes: Eruption, Rift, Fortress, whatever game modes they decide on a rotation, so that way you're able to really mix it up, and it's not the same thing every single week of Iron Banner. I've really enjoyed that they've tried these new game modes. Not everyone lands, and especially with the meta changing, it might be a little bit different how the game plays. So I'm not going to get into meta changes for me personally as far as PvP goes. I don't mind the current meta as much as most people, but I also wouldn't mind them toning down the abilities. I just have a strong feeling Strand is going to be very strong at launch, and that's going to be the next pain point. But I feel like that's always going to happen when you introduce a new subclass to the game, is they want it to be super strong, and that's just the way it goes. Unless they completely separate sandboxes, which at this point is not happening, that's just the way it is, and that's something that people have to wrap their minds around. Other than that, I think Gambit is unfortunate. Like we've seen with Fortress, that's more like, I think, what Gambit could or should be. I personally I got my Reckoner title. I love Gambit, but it's kind of outgrown its usefulness at this point. There's really no reason. If you lose Pinnacles, Gambit just is not going to have a reason to stick around unless they do another overhaul. I would love to see that. I want it to be a great game mode. I think it's a lot of fun still, especially if you go in with the right builds and stuff. But it's just, there's really not enough reasons to play it. And so if they can change that, if they can put cool rewards behind Gambit, I'd be in. But other than that, I just don't know if Gambit is worthwhile. And that's really where the general playlist pain comes in, is strikes feel kind of outdated. Crucible feels a little outdated, and Gambit all feels a little outdated. So I don't know how they correct all of that, but there are just some changes that I would like to see. Like I said, Crucible, more maps, more variety of modes, strikes, more modifiers, more zany weeks, more changes in the way the activities play from week to week outside of just your standard modifiers. Maybe you have skeleton keys where you can farm for specific loot. Something like that would be nice as well. Maybe with Nightfalls, so you can try to get some of those Nightfall weapons, even if you're not going for the Adept version. And then for Gambit, either better loot, or just add in some variety, some modifiers to Gambit as well to make it more fun, because it's not competitive at this point, and I don't think it ever will be. I think those are mostly my thoughts on things that I would like to change. I know there's a lot going on with the game, and there's only so much that Bungie can change from now until Lightfall, and I hope we see more changes over the course of the year. But the things that I want to see improved from top to bottom: seasonal activities, playlist activities from Gambit, Crucible, and the Vanguard activities, and then really just the blues. Those are the main things that I would like to see change, and I think the game will be a good shot. You could say you want more content, but obviously I think that's unrealistic just to throw out the word, just say more content, and then that's just not possible with what they're doing now. So people will complain about reskins and stuff, and I think those are necessary to add even as much content as we have in the game right now. So that's just my feedback on everything. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. My name is JoPa. I hope you have a good one. Subscribe to the channel. I'm gonna have loads of content heading into Lightfall for sure. I cannot wait. I'm very excited about this expansion. I hope you have a good one, and I'll catch you all later.